What's that coming over the hill? It's Michael Chopra. It's Michael Chopra. What's that coming over the hill? It's Michael Chopra. Thank you.
Welcome. There we go. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Rummer Tavern. If you don't know by now, I'm Si from Ace Podcast Nation, and this is City Legends number 3. And I'm delighted, thrilled, very excited to be joined by former Cardiff City striker and indeed Cardiff City legend, Mr. Michael Chopra. How are you, my friend?
I'm very well. Thank you for inviting me to the Rummer Tavern. Appreciate being here and appreciate the fans coming along and being here and listening to some stories. Hopefully it's going to be a great night.
It's going to be a cracker. And just to get that started, got a little gift for you from the pub.
Oh, thank you.
There you go, mate.
Thank you very much.
Wales away, limited edition, sea salt and caramel vodka. There you go, mate.
This will go down well tonight.
Oh, indeed. It's going to be a good night. There we go.
Anyone want a shot?
So as I explained already, it's going to be about 45 minutes of me and Michael talking, and then we'll crack in, and the audience then will guide the conversation, ask the questions. But I guess where I would like to start, instead of just like the boring, not the boring, but the run of the mill, sort of go back to the start of your career and all that sort of stuff. I want to know the juicy stuff. So how many times did you fall out with Craig Bellamy? That many?
No, I think probably a few times. I think one of the major ones was probably, and a lot of you guys probably know already, it's been well documented in the press about the Bristol City situation at half time. People don't understand, but you do understand. I had a gambling addiction, and I was having a chat with a guy called Steve Black, who's sadly no longer with us, back in Newcastle. He was, if people don't know him, he was a mentor to Johnny Wilkinson and them type of people in the Northeast. And I was speaking to him quite a lot about being fully focused on football and trying to switch off once you get over the white line and blocking everything that's going off the pitch and concentrating on football. And I used to always check my phone at half time. And I used to go in, get the phone out of my pocket, check it, put it back, let the manager do his team talk. People probably didn't like that, especially Craig. He probably thought I was checking up on the horses and football scores. But if people knew me, they knew what really was going on. And Bristol City game away, he decided to tell one of whether it was the fitness coach Alex Armstrong or the physio Sean Connolly, to take my phone and hide it.
Okay.
So I've come in and I'm checking for my phone. I'm thinking, what the fuck's going on here? Where's my phone? So I'm looking around, and I said to one of the staff, I was like, someone's been in the changing room and nicked my phone. They're telling me to sit down and listen to the gaffer, and I'm looking around saying who's took my phone, sort of thing.
I suppose at that point as well, you must have thought like someone outside of the team had come in and been through your bags or something like that.
Yeah, that's what you automatically think. You don't think it's one of your teammates that's told one of the staff members to come in and go through your pockets and hide your mobile phone. So it wasn't until I just said to the gaffer, I'm not going out until I get my phone. Somebody was like, don't worry about your phone, just concentrate on the game. I was like, listen, every game I check my phone, it hasn't stopped me doing what I've been doing. It doesn't stop me scoring goals, nothing. So what's different? And it was only probably a week later I found out that Craig had told one of the physios that I need to be more professional and not look at my phone in half time and concentrate on football. So that was probably one of the fallouts. And then obviously I believe, whether it's true or not, it's just what I believe, that come the end of the season, when I did leave Cardiff City, I think he had a strong conversation with the owners and said if the club want to be going places, then they've got to start being more professional, and having me around the club is not professional.
Did you get on with him day to day, or was it after that? Was there like a bit of a kind of undercurrent of like animosity or frustration?
I think. Look, he was a teammate, and you need teammates on the pitch, whether you don't like someone or not. Whenever you're on the pitch, you need to back them, and they've got to back you. But we always got on with each other, even at Newcastle and them sort of clubs when I played with them. I remember, obviously, I had the addiction. The manager was wanting to ban card schools on the bus going to games. I remember one of the games, Craig was unbelievable, had a really good game. We won the game. The next week, the gaffers sent someone to come to the back of the bus and said, you can't play cards, you're not allowed. And Craig had said, no, we're playing cards. And he was saying, yeah, but the gaff doesn't want to. He says, no, I've got a routine that if I've done well last week, I'll stick to it this week. So we play cards. Do you know what I mean? So it's one of them things. It's one rule's okay for one, but one for another.
And I think in any walk of life, any team, any like in an office, anything, if people have got kind of different treatment from the managers, it causes a problem long term. It just does, doesn't it? Because there's going to be that kind of frustration that someone's getting treated differently or getting away with something which you're not, or whatever it may be. I think that's like a natural thing which goes on in any walk of life. I think
so, but looking back now, when you look back at it, Bellas was probably trying to help me. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, I had the addiction and everything. He's probably trying to think, well, if he is gambling, somebody needs to do something with his phone, and he does need to concentrate on football. So once you finish playing and you do look back and stuff like that, you do realise that he might have been doing it to try and help, but there was a reason why I would always check my phone, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? And people didn't understand that.
You mentioned like the gambling and then like the addiction and stuff. And I know you said you're happy to talk about it and whatnot. Like how did that start and then kind of develop?
I think it started when I was about 16. Being in the youth team at Newcastle, we would all meet up at St James's Park. We jump in a minibus. We go to Maiden Castle, Durham at the time, and then we would come back as a team on the minibus. And I think it was just, you've got 20 minutes to wait for the metro. Let's go into
William Hill or whatever.
William Hill, the arcades or whatever. Put £2 in slot machines. And I just think it was since then. And then obviously, as I was getting into the first team, travelling to Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur with big name players, Alan Shearer, Shay Given, Steve Harper, Titus Bramble, Jermaine Genius, Bellas, Kieran Dyer, these sort of players. You want to mix with them.
Of course, yeah.
You see, and I'm on an aeroplane and literally there's like 30 grand sitting on the table and they're just playing cards. And it's just a look at cards. It's just luck, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You turn 3 cards over what you got. Then you've got a bluff and stuff like that. 3-card brag. And
I suppose at that stage of your career, you wouldn't have seen that type of money, really.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's like, as well as wanting to fit in with your teammates, it's this kind of like the shock of seeing, like we all know there's thousands and millions of pounds in football, but like as a young kid, when you see like a big wedge of cash like that, it's gonna.
Well, yeah, and especially when I was probably on £500 a week at the time. Do you know what I mean? And when you see large amounts of money like that, you're thinking, I've got 3 aces. Yeah, that's coming home with me. Do you know what I mean? It's one of them things. But look, I can't put the blame on anyone. Do you know what I mean? It's down to myself. It's the willpower and how strong I am to say no or whether I want to do it or not. But and then you want to fit in. You want to be one of the lads. Do you know what I mean? You want to mix in and be with them and be part of the card school, because look, the card schools were rife back then. Do you know what I mean? There was a big thing about
in the England
setup,
teams, yeah.
playing cards on the way to games and stuff like that. And I remember, I think it was Bobby Robson. He said something in the training room. He was like, "Why do you want to? We're going to a game. We've got a big important game. Why do you want to take money from one of your teammates? You need him on the pitch. If you're taking a couple of grand off him, do you think he's going to be happy with you?"
Yeah.
And it's just one of them things. Do you know what I mean? It was just. I think it was the culture at the time, the football culture, the gambling and stuff like that. And then ever since then, it just gradually got worse and worse.
Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? Like there's like a camaraderie to it, and it increases team spirit. But you're right. If X player loses a shitload of money to whoever, it's difficult not to have a bit of resentment. All right, maybe resentment's not the right word, but frustration. If you've just lost a lot of money, it's natural to be frustrated.
I think so, yeah, and then it'll depend on the player as well. Has he got the right mental strength to put that to the back of his mind when he's got
there was rumours, wasn't there, that Michael Owen owed like his teammates all sorts of money at one point. I think it was Michael Owen. When those card schools were rife, there was always these reports of X player owes this to these group of players, and like to me from the outside, I just think that's got to be a distraction.
Well, like I said, it's got to. If you don't have the right mental strength, once you get on the pitch, it'll affect your performance and that sort of thing. So, there's been loads of rumours about different players. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but unless you're in that actual circle, you don't know what's been going on. Yeah.
So, as someone myself who's dealt with like addiction, with gambling, and I've had issues with drinking when I was younger, like how difficult was it as the gambling kind of progressed? But obviously at that time as well, your career is your career is starting to take off. You went to Cardiff, you had a great spell.
Do you know what, it was strange because the gambling was getting worse, but my career was going up there. Do you know what I mean? People couldn't quite actually understand how I could do what I was doing off the pitch and continue to perform at such a high level. And I always said it's always been my dream to play football since I was a kid. I wouldn't let my family down and that sort of thing. They put their heart and soul into making me become a professional player. They give me everything I wanted, football boots and that sort of thing. So I didn't want to let them down. And I think that's what it was really. I could really switch off once I stepped over that white line and continue being a professional player. And obviously you've got fans who pay hundreds a season to come and watch you play, and if you're not performing for them, then you're letting everybody else down. Do you know what I mean? And there's a term that you're robbing a living. Some players say that about other players, and I didn't want somebody to say that about me, about my football career.
So was there, with regards to the gambling, was there like a tipping point where that sort of your career going upwards and the gambling kind of, did it just progressively get worse until there was like you got to a point where you were like, no, I think I've got a problem? Or was there someone else who kind of helped you realize that? I'm kind of interested in.
Well, it wasn't. What it was is we had a private bookie. One of the players at Newcastle introduced me to him, and every month he would pay him. I reached my limit, and then I asked the player to put me a bet on using his limit, and he said no, I can't do that. He told Alan Shearer, who I had the same agent with, and he said, I think Chops has got a problem, and you need to speak to your agent about it. And I think that was even before I came to Cardiff.
Wow.
That was when I was at Newcastle.
So you'd have been early 20s then, like young. Yeah.
So when I came to Cardiff, I owed probably about 30 grand to a bookie. Do you know what I mean? So it was, people might not know that because scored 22 goals that season.
Yeah, you came in and hit the ground running. Had a great
people
season.
Thought I had a great season, yeah. But
that must have been stressful though. That must have been, you could switch off and stuff. It's
I went to Sunderland really when I needed the help. I spoke to Roy Keane, told him my problems, and straight away he said, "You've got to go and get yourself sorted." And he was brilliant. You know what I mean? It was, people don't understand. And before Roy was on Sky TV, nobody knew what type of person he was. But how I see him on TV is how I seen him, because I used to go in his office every day. I used to have a chat with him. He used to always ask me how I'm feeling and everything, because at the end of the day, I'm a human being. Absolutely, people have to think he's not just a footballer, he's a human. You've got to look after his health and mental health as well. So he was brilliant, and he always got the help and everything and that I needed. But at the end of the day, it was down to me, because he wanted to help me. The football club wanted to help Sunderland, but I didn't want to help myself. Yeah. I remember I couldn't get to the Sport and Chance Clinic because it was fully booked. So I went to a hospital in London called Capio Nightingale. I was staying in a landmark hotel for 2 weeks. I'd go in there at 9 o'clock, finish at 5. I'd go to the bookies for an hour. And that was like every day for 2 weeks. So Sunderland thought I was getting help.
And you were in
when
the
I was
bookies.
Going there and going straight to the bookies afterwards. So I wasn't helping myself.
No.
And look, it's like any addiction. It's down to yourself. If you don't want help, you're never going to stop.
Yeah, I mean, like with myself, with gambling, with other stuff, like until you're ready to look it in the face and say, do you know what, I need help, or I need to stop this, or it doesn't matter how many times you might have a conversation with a wife or a brother, a mother, whatever it may be, a mate, and you might acknowledge that you've got a problem, but it'll kind of be words. Yeah. And then, like you say, you'll go and get help, but actually you'll go into the bookies. What sort of things were you gambling on? Was it like horses or football, or literally anything? Anything, yeah. Literally anything. Yeah. That's quite common though. Like for people, particularly people who will gamble on like sports betting, you kind of might start off with things so say football, and then you move on to horses, and you think you can get ahead by you have a good week or whatever, doing research, and I know what I'm doing, and then suddenly you find yourself betting on virtual horse racing, or like I don't know, like football across in South American 6th division. It's the same with anything, isn't it? If you've got a drink problem, you're not just going to stick to one drink. You're going to drink anything. Absolutely. To like a drug problem, you don't just stick to one thing. You do anything. Like me, I was betting on anything. Do you know what I mean? I set my alarm 3-4 o'clock in the morning to have a bet on a Brazilian match that I know absolutely nothing about. Do you know what I mean? And that sort of thing. And people are like, how can you do this? And then go to training the next day and And like, I don't want to pry like too much into like the financial side of it, but like, can you give us like a general idea of how much you were gambling in compared to how much you were earning? So I'm not asking for like figures, but like were you like gambling pretty much every bit of money that you could, or were you able to control it to a point where like? Well, I wasn't really controlling it. I was obviously you've got your mortgage, and I was putting some money into my pension and stuff like that. So whatever was left over was going. Do you know what I mean? And it was a large amount of money. Of course, yeah. And that sort of thing. But if I didn't get advised to put money in my pension, because we got a pension at 35 years old, then you'd be struggling. Do you know what I mean? Because you mentioned earlier it's a short career, and I think if you haven't got that pension in place and your career's over, and during your career, not just you, any footballer, if you've got an issue with addiction, gambling particularly, because you lose money as well, your career's over at whatever 35, you're done. Like if you haven't got a pension or money put aside, or you haven't been sort of intelligent with it, you are literally, you're back to the sort of start almost of being 18 and coming out of school and college, and it's that's quite a scary prospect. And I'm sure there's a lot of footballers out there who have had that exact problem. I think so, yeah. And I think people tend to keep dropping down the leagues to just pick up the money to pay the mortgage and stuff like that. But I didn't want to be one of them players that was a Nelly man, or
or he's only playing because he needs the money and that sort of thing. I think that's probably why I retired quite early, because I didn't want to play in League One and play in League Two and play in the conference at the age of 35, 36 because of the money situation. I pretty much, when I retired, and I'm not afraid to admit, I stopped enjoying football. It wasn't there for me anymore. People will probably say, how can you not enjoy football? But at the end of the day, it started to become a business, and people treat the clubs, there was no loyalty, and people at clubs treat you like a piece of meat.
It became less personal, didn't it?
If you don't perform well one week, the amount of money that's involved in football nowadays, and when it was starting, when I was coming to the end of my career, just leave you out and bring someone else in. That's what it became.
So when I just wanted, like, just to sort of round off the gambling subject, when you were at Cardiff and stuff like that, was you still gambling like very heavily, sort of into that? And when did you get a hold of it, and when did you stop, I guess, and how did that come about?
I was when I was at Cardiff, I was probably the year we got to the playoffs was probably the worst it's been for me, really bad. And people, like I said, people, when I first signed for Cardiff, people didn't understand the gambling situation then. But when we got to the playoff final, that year was probably my worst. And fans wouldn't recognise that because of the season I had and doing so well in the playoff final. But that's probably why I'd done so well in the final, because I was thinking about the money.
Was it
to try and get to the Premier League to double it up? But no, look, do you know what I mean? I can laugh and joke about it now because it's all in the past. And then when I got to Ipswich, they knew all about it. They knew all my problems from day one. Simon Clegg, Paul Gill were fantastic with me. Really cared about trying to put it right, because they knew that if they can get my head right, they knew they've got a goal scorer. So they done all they could to do what they could, and they even said to me, look, we'll speak to the people who you owe the money to. We're going to clear all the debt.
Oh.
And then you just pay it back every month out of your wages. So every month I was paying them back out my wages for the debt that they cleared. There was an Olympic rowing champion for Great Britain called Steve Williams, who Ipswich brung to the football club to just be with me. So in the morning at 7 o'clock, I'd be at the David Lloyd with him, swimming, proper training.
Yeah.
He'd sit with me, everything, make sure I'm eating properly. After training, we'd go out and do a little jog around the training pitch.
Just keeping you busy and keeping an eye on you
keeping away from the gambling thing.
Yeah. Those trigger points, isn't it?
I think that year there was a big case about getting caught up in a betting scandal in the horse racing industry. Ipswich were backing me on that. Give me all the advice, told me not to fight it because I had an addiction. Don't fight it, let them ban you. So I got a 10-year ban from racing. I couldn't go to any race courses.
It's probably a good thing.
At the time it was a good thing, but I was thinking, fucking hell, I can't even go to Cheltenham.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But look, at the end of the day, it was the best thing for them. Do you know what I mean? They're trying to help me. They told me to go into every single bookmakers in Ipswich and self-exclude myself.
Yeah. And once you self-exclude,
it was killing me.
Yeah,
it was walking into a bookie was killing me. So, and then there'd be times when I was going in there, they were like, "Michael, you can't come in, get out."
Yeah, and I mean, for people who don't know, like when you self-exclude, so I've self-excluded from online betting. They take it way, way seriously. So, like, I self-excluded from all of them, and then I tried to set up like some sort of fantasy football thing, and it was like an offshoot of one of the main betting accounts. And they were like, "Nope." And I was like, and they were, no, and they would not have it at all. I tried to explain, and
look,
so probably, Becky's doing very well in the fantasy football this year.
even after that, a couple of years after that, obviously, I've stopped it all now and stuff like that. I can have a fiver with my mates and stuff like that. And you try and set an account up. I tried to do one probably 4 years ago just to put a fiver flutter on every now and again. Do you know what I mean? But as soon as I put my name in, it's just
no, like the alarm
that's
bells
everything.
going
Do you
off,
know what I
like,
mean?
yeah.
It's completely banned from everything. So I take my hats off to Ipswich because they didn't have to do
they
that.
looked
You know what I
after you
mean?
by the sounds of it.
They really looked after me, Ipswich, and the people at the football club were I'm really grateful for what they did. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, because they could have kind of like brushed it off a little bit and just said, not. But they could have not done as much as what they did. I suppose. Is what
I think so. Yeah, I think at the time they probably obviously Mark Kennedy was there. They would have probably asked Sparky what's he like, that sort of thing. So yeah, they could have. Look, they didn't have to sign me. Do you know what I mean?
No. Can I ask you a question, mate? You said like you might have like a fiver here and there, like a bit of fun, similar to me. Although I don't trust myself, so I don't now. But like for a long time, I would do that, just sort of a bit of fun on like an accumulator or stuff. Does it worry you when you do like a bit of fiver for fun or something like that? That it might be like if that fiver happens to come in and you get an accumulator and you win a few £100 or something, that adrenaline spike might.
Do you know what? It doesn't worry me because I've got friends that are around me that are strong enough, and they know if I did ask to put a bet on, they'd say no. Whereas, look, if we all come together and we say, look, let's have, they call it a train. Do you know what I mean? Let's put a train on this week and see if we can build a Christmas pot up sort of thing. Start off with fiver, pick a team.
Got you. Yeah.
Fiver's not going to affect me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not going to.
Not going to break the bank.
Exactly.
Like
yeah.
that.
So, and then at the weekend, it's a little bit of fun, but other than that, I wouldn't go out and bet what I was betting on horses and stuff. I know what was happening with the horses. Yeah, I still bet on it. I was paying jockeys to pull them up. I was paying I was going into Cardiff Bay bookies and I was telling people in the bookies, do not back this horse. Yeah. Because he's going to. I'm just saying, don't bet this horse.
Because he's going to pull it up.
And as a favourite, he's going to pull it up. And there's people there chucking pens at the screen. Oh, you're cheating, fucker, this and that. And I'm saying, mate, I told you. Do you know what I mean? It's all. Yeah. The next day, I'm still betting. And look, it happens in horse racing. It's the most corrupt sport ever. All the jockeys are at it.
Oh, it's
trainers are going to say, yeah, my horse it's ready. It's going to win. That jockey, unless the jockey tells you it's going to win or lose, don't listen to a trainer. Yeah. Well, do you know what I mean? It's one of them things, and I was trying to help people in the booth. Don't bet on the horse.
Don't do it. It is interesting you say that, because like people who bet, and particularly people who either addicted or gamble incessantly every day, like you can tell them don't do this because this, but they will still do it.
Yeah.
Just purely out of like habit, whatever it may be, stubbornness, they will do it. And I mean, like just on the corruption of horse racing, very quickly. Like I know someone. Let's call him Simon, who won like a good couple of thousand at Cheltenham. Like did really well off of not very much, and then proceeded to lose it and more in the months after, betting on like the 12 o'clock on a Monday at 4 Glass or something. Like just ridiculous corrupt racing where, like you say, the favourites get pulled out, and I just couldn't. Simon couldn't stop himself, and it's a problem. I spoke to a sports psychologist about the pressures on young players who are like 18-year-olds now. They're coming into the Premier League teams, and they got thousands, millions coming into their bank accounts. They've never seen money like it. Some of them are not even playing regular first team football, and they've got once you've got cars and houses and whatever, like what do you spend your money on? You need some sort of outlet. And she was saying like it's rife even now within the youth teams almost more than it is the first teams, because the 23s, they got quite a big chunk of the wages and stuff, but they haven't quite got the responsibility of the first team players, and there is more help there, I think, and support.
I think so now, because it's so it was so bad at one time, do you know what I mean? But I'll go back to the FA can do as much as they want, and all your players can't do this, they can't open accounts, they can't bet on football. I know, because I've spoke to people, other players will just get their mates to do it.
Yeah, of course they will.
they'll tell them, mate, open a betting account in your name. There's a couple of grand. Come put a few bets on.
Yeah.
And I know because I've had players' wives contact me and say, can you help this player out? How did you manage to stop and what did you do and stuff like that? And I'm saying, well, has he not banned himself? Yeah, he's banned, but other people can do it.
Yeah.
So the FA, the Premier League, can do all they want and say, well, you can't have an account in your name and stuff like that. It's not going to stop. And then when I was in the clinic at Sport and Chance, like I said about triggers, one of the Cardiff shirt sponsors had a betting company on this one.
Yeah.
Soberbet. And then it was the trigger points. You come into the change room, looking straight across my teammate, I'll see a betting company.
Yeah.
And it just triggers, oh, let's have a bet. Do you know what I mean? And until you stop betting and advertising and stuff like that in football, you're never going to drive it out. But
I feel a bit guilty now for getting you to sign that shirt. Really,
I'll sign over the top of it.
Yeah. And look, addicts lie. When they're in their addiction, they'll find a way to do their drugs, their drink, their gambling, whatever it may be, whatever they may be addicted to, they will find a way always. And I think, like you say, if you self-exclude, but you're not ready to stop, it'll be in your brother's, your wife's, your friends' names, whatever it may be, and you'll find a way. That's why it's important, particularly for young players, I think, but all players that now that there's that support in place. Was it common knowledge that you were kind of heavy into gambling before people knew that you had a problem necessarily? Would you say that it was relatively common knowledge that you were like into gambling pretty heavily? The reason I ask is I always ask like footballers and managers, agents, whatever, if you were ever approached, to sort of try and match fixing and things like this that we've seen over the years.
I've never been approached.
Okay.
Never been approached to match fix. I think the reason being is you've got other players that will probably ask you the question. People have probably asked somebody or ask him if he would ever do anything, just in a conversation. Do you know what I mean? And I would never do it. It's for whatever reason, and football's probably the easiest thing to match fix, to get a yellow card and that sort of thing. And it's just never come in my head to cheat with football. It was my career. I didn't put all the effort and sacrifices into getting where I wanted to be, to then chuck it away for what, 10 grand or whatever somebody's paid to match fix. Do you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, I know I was cheating with the horses and stuff like that, but you're cheating your fans, your own fans. Do you know what I mean? Who come to watch you play? You're cheating them what they're paying for their team, and then it looks bad and sort of thing. So I've never ever been asked to match fix or do that thing, which is probably strange. Do you know what I mean? It's because
Well, I thought I'd ask a question. I have asked it to many different players and stuff, and I'm kind of interested because I'm always interested in it from a side of like how rife is it in that era, because we all know about the card scores and the gambling. So you almost naturally assume that if people know, those people in those circles know that there's a lot of players who are in debt or they're gambling and stuff like this, would they be sort of perfect to ask?
I think it's more the players that are probably earning less amount of money and
need a bit extra
League
sort
One
of
and
thing,
League Two, whereas I might have been quite a lot of debt, but I was still earning good money. Do you know what I mean? So they might have thought he doesn't really need it, sort of thing. So
that makes sense. Were you there? We'll move away from gambling a little bit. Were you on the pre-season tour where there was an incident with a fire extinguisher, Tom Heaton and Kevin McMahon? Were you on that tour? Kev's already told the story, but I just wondered if you were there.
You'll have to remind me.
So basically, Kev and people...
Was this in the corridor?
I think in the corridor, and then they went into Tom Heaton's room and soaked him in a fire extinguisher. And when the manager and they all sort of kicked off, and I don't think Tom was very happy. It sort of they asked who did that in the morning, and everyone sort of went, "Oh no, it wasn't me." And Kev just went, "No, it was me," and just said it was him straight away. No, I just wondered.
I'm trying to think what
you don't tell them.
when it would have been.
I know Kev just
I'm not-
told that in the first 3 minutes of the first podcast we ever did, and he was just like straight in.
Must be proud of it.
Yeah.
I can't really remember, so I can't say if I was there or if I wasn't.
What are some of your best pre-season tour memories?
Obviously, probably the year when I went to Sunderland, we were in Portugal, and I didn't want to leave Cardiff. And Dave and Peter Ridsdale were saying, "Well, you need to leave," and I was like, "I don't want to. I love the place. Do you know what I mean? I've just come back off having a great season. Came into Portugal. I was flying. I was fit and everything, and then." One of the days he was like, "You can't train." I was like, "What do you mean I can't train?" He was like, "We don't want to get injured." And I was like, "Why?" He was like, "Because
they're trying to sell you."
Yeah, sort of thing. Yeah, we've agreed a deal with Sunderland, and we don't want you to train and this and that. And I was like, "Well, I don't want to leave though." And he's like, and then they pulled me to one side and were like, "We need you to leave because we need to fund a new training ground and this and that, and it's going to benefit the club in the long run. We paid 300 grand for you in a season. We can sell you for 5 million. What that'll do for the football club is unbelievable." And I remember going to Treforest and training and pulling the weights out of the porta cabins and putting them in the car park and lying on the floor doing weights and stuff like that. And it wasn't nice.
It weren't the best facilities.
So I just said to Dave, I was like, "Well, if I'm not allowed to train, keep me out here for like a week so I can have a holiday." And a jolly up really with the lads. So yeah, that was a great pre-season. We had an incident in a nightclub, and I remember all the lads during the season. Terry Phillips used to put stuff in the papers about mark out of 10s and stuff like that, and some of the lads weren't happy. So I was like, "If I'm fucking leaving, I'm going to absolutely destroy his room." So we got a key for his room when he was out, and we just went in and absolutely trashed it. His bed was upside down, everything. We put a big question mark and shaving foam on his mirror and stuff like that. Cut the bristles off the toothbrush and everything, and just literally absolutely ransacked his room. And when you see him, you can ask him.
All the stories that Terry told me when I did the podcast with him, and he came in and he didn't tell me that one. I could have words with him. I tell you, give me some
and I think I scored 20 goals by January, February. So they raised it to like 10 grand or something. And I was loving it. I was really enjoying my football at Cardiff.
Yeah.
But when you sit down and you speak to the because we can get a new training on, we can improve certain things and stuff like that. So it wasn't treat me like a piece of meat. It was the case of it's better for the football club going forward.
Yeah, it takes the club forward and it improves the facilities and stuff. And I guess it's different as well if it was going in the owner's back pocket, or they were trying to, sell you to buy a couple of cheap players and stuff like that. And then it's kind of like one of those things. Isn't it?
Thank you.
But what about so we talked before we started recording and stuff, and before we started about Dave Jones. Obviously, I've had this unique experience and conversation where I've spoken to Andy at great length on and off camera about like his experiences with Dave. He obviously famously fell out with him and the rest of it. But then obviously Kev loves him and thinks he did amazing things for his career. Same with Jay.
Yeah.
I know you said you think very, very highly of him. Like, talk to me about how he helped you as a footballer and what it was like to play for Dave Jones.
Look, it was brilliant. I think the football we were playing at the time was probably the best Cardiff City's seen for a long time. You still speak to fans now, and all they talk about is them few seasons when Dave was manager. He knew how to get the best out of players. He would bring players in that probably had problems. You look at myself, Roger Johnson, Jay probably had some of his problems, and he turned us into superstars. Really, he had the knack.
Certainly got the best out of you, didn't he?
He had the knack of bringing in players that were basically not good enough for the Premier League, but too good for the Championship. If you know what I mean. People like Witz is an example. Steve McPhail, myself, Jay, loads of players.
Jason Kumas as well.
Yeah, Kumi.
These players.
And I think that was probably his man management, really.
I was going to say, was it his man management, or was it just the way he dealt with the team?
I think it was probably his man management. Now, some players, and not afraid to admit this, didn't like it, how he treated me and Jay. But if you're performing on the pitch, why not let them do what they want?
Yeah.
And I remember having the conversation with Dave, and I used to love going back to Newcastle. I was young. I was 22, 23. I love a night out. No better place than Newcastle. And I always wanted to go back. Do you know what I mean? And I remember saying to Dave, if I score and I win, give me till Tuesday off. Okay, Chops, you've got to do it though first. But if I didn't do that, he'd come down on me like a ton of bricks. Yeah. So if you don't perform, he'd really come down on you. And I think that's probably why he got the best out of me, because he knew what I wanted, and I knew what he wanted. And you knew. At the end of the day, his job is results business, performance. 100%. Yeah. If you don't perform, then why should he give you leeway? And other players didn't like it. I've seen podcasts before with Gavin Ray saying Dave used to give Jay and Chops too much leeway, and Paul,
which he wanted probably.
But if he's going home and having days off and for training on a Tuesday and that sort of, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, if you're performing on a weekend and you're winning games, then
it's a results business, and not just for the manager, but the fans, for the club, for everyone. If you're winning games and you're performing, I don't think anyone really cares what you're. If you're drinking, gambling, whatever, going out on nights out. If you're winning and you're scoring goals.
And I remember times I would literally drive to Newcastle after a game on a Saturday, get back to Newcastle at probably 11 o'clock, straight out. And then on Tuesday morning, leaving Newcastle at like 3 o'clock in the morning, drive straight to Cardiff, straight to the training ground at the Vale, having like 30 minutes sleep in the car park, and just go and train. Do you know what I mean? It was that's how I lived my life. Do you know what I mean? It was one of them things. I was always on the go and that sort of thing. And and this is what I keep saying. People didn't understand how I could live my life like that.
It's I find it interesting. One of the things that interests me actually from that era, what was the dynamic like between, say, like you and Jay, and then Ross McCormack? Because quite often you kept Ross out the side because you and him were like almost quite similar in stature.
Look, I get on with Ross. Even to this day, we still speak. Do you know what I mean? He's one of them people that I still speak to even now.
Get him on the podcast for me. I've been trying to get hold of him.
Ross is a great player. He's got great ability. I think when I left, and then I came back on loan for one season, it pushed him out a bit, and it pushed him out. It might have went to left wing as well, and wasn't his position. But look, Roscoe was a great player, and then I think it got to a point where he could play on the wing, sort of thing, and you try and fit him in the team. And I think it got to a point where Dave was like, he's got too many good players in the team that he can't. He doesn't know he doesn't know what to do with them, sort of thing.
Interesting, because like Ross, I thought Ross McCoy was quality footballer. I really liked him. Worked hard, scored goals, very capable of scoring a worldie as well.
Well, it shows you that when he went to Leeds, he was brilliant at Leeds and as a goal scorer at Villa as well. But he had as a technical player, he was brilliant, really.
But another one that I think probably you could argue Dave Jones probably got the best out of him. Like, I know he did all right at Leeds and he did all right at other clubs, but I think there was a spell of a season or so which he was outstanding for Cardiff. And he found that consistency. And I think that's what Dave Jones had a knack of doing, like you touched on just now, is he had a knack of getting consistency out of players who perhaps had been inconsistent previously. Like Jay, for instance, I think no one doubted how talented he was, but no one had been able to, at that point, quite get the consistency out of him.
Yeah, definitely. Like I've said before, it all comes down to man management and what players need. Some players don't need to have time off and stuff like that, and it's understanding them players, and it's okay saying, well, you've got to come and train and with the rest of the lads and stuff like that, but I didn't need to train every day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was fit. It's not going to affect my goal scoring ability, my technical ability, nothing. So if I'm doing well at the weekend, which is when it matters, then so be it. Continue to do it.
Absolutely. So as much as I could sit here and I could talk to you for like another hour quite easily and carry on, what we're going to do is we're going to have a 5-minute break. People can go to the bar, go to the toilet and stuff, and then all of you guys can guide the conversation then. So I'll let you guys ask the question, and Michael will get stuck in.
Perfect.
Cool, guys. Right, go get a drink. Round of applause as well.